My father's funeral reception was winding down when Diane cornered me in the church hall. She slid a leather folder across the table. I was still holding his urn. Inside the folder was an itemized invoice, $287,000. For his care, she said. She smiled, clicked her pen, and told me I had 2 weeks to pay. How do you hand someone a $250,000 bill while their father's ashes are still warm? I looked at the invoice. Round-the-clock nursing, experimental treatments, private hospice suite. The numbers were neat, professional, convincing, but I'm a forensic accountant. Numbers are what I do, and I had something Diane didn't know about. Dad's real will in my car, along with 12 other attachments he'd emailed me 4 days before he died. I smiled back at her, and I said nothing. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there? If this sounds familiar, go ahead and hit subscribe. You're going to want to see how this plays out. Let me back up. My mom died when I was 6. Cancer. Fast and brutal. Dad raised me alone for 6 years. Then he met Diane at a work conference. She was warm at first. Made pancakes on Sundays. Laughed at his jokes. I was 12 when they got married. 13 when my grandparents passed and left me a trust fund. $50,000 locked until I turned 25. That's when Diane got cold. Suddenly I was expensive. Suddenly my college fund was a burden. Suddenly every family dinner came with comments about how some kids didn't appreciate what they had. Dad noticed. He started teaching me to track everything. Receipts, statements, records. He worked in finance. He'd say, "Follow the numbers and you'll always know the truth." So I became a forensic accountant. I got good at finding what people tried to hide. I visited Dad every month, even after his diagnosis 2 years ago. But Diane controlled access. She scheduled my calls, told me when I could visit, iced me out of his medical decisions. She said it was to keep him calm, to protect his rest. The family believed her. Over those 2 years, Dad started emailing me weird things. Photos of old bills, screenshots of statements, random receipts. I thought it was nostalgia, maybe the medication. It wasn't. He was building me a file. The will reading was in 3 days. I had a feeling Diane had no idea what was coming. Back at the reception, Diane wasn't done. She opened the folder wider so I could see every line. "Your father wanted the best," she said. I gave it to him. "Now you owe me." I scanned the invoice. The charges were staggering. $18,000 a month for premier in-home nursing, $62,000 for experimental immunotherapy, a private hospice suite, $45,000. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "You were always too busy with your career. I sacrificed everything. I was there every single day." I stayed quiet. She leaned in. "If you don't pay within 14 days, I'll contest the will. I'll tie up the estate for years. Your father would be heartbroken to see you treat me this way." I looked at her. Really looked. Her nails were freshly done. Gel extensions, expensive. Her bag was new. Hermes, if I had to guess. And the dates on the invoice didn't match. The experimental treatment was billed for March. Dad had been in hospice since February. The private suite charge was dated April 9th. He died April 4th. I didn't say any of that. I just nodded. "I'll think about it," I said. She smiled. Touched my hand. 2 weeks, sweetheart, or I'll make sure you don't see a dime." I walked away. I didn't look back. That night I sat in my apartment. Sympathy flowers covered every surface. The invoice sat on my kitchen table under a single lamp. $287,000. A lawyer's letterhead was clipped to the back. It looked official, serious. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The family group chat had exploded. Diane had already started her campaign. "Can you believe he's refusing to reimburse me?" I gave up 2 years of my life. He didn't even visit during the last month. That last one stung, because I'd tried. I'd driven 6 hours, twice. Diane told me he was sleeping, that he'd asked not to be disturbed. My aunts were messaging me privately, disappointed, confused. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly experts on my character. The walls were closing in. I stared at the invoice. Maybe I should have been there more. Maybe I'd missed something. Then I remembered Dad's last email. Subject line, "For when you need it." I'd been too destroyed to open it after he died. I opened my laptop, clicked the email, and everything changed. The email had 13 attachments. The first one was a PDF, last will and testament, signed, notarized, dated 8 months ago, right after his diagnosis, before the medications clouded anything. I read it twice. The house to me. The investment accounts to me. The vintage car collection, the one he'd spent decades building, to me. Diane received a one-time settlement of $150,000. Plus, she kept everything she'd brought into the marriage. That was it. No ambiguity. No shared assets. At the bottom of the PDF was a scanned note in Dad's handwriting. She's already been paid. Don't let her take what's yours. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry you have to do this alone. He knew she'd come for me. And he'd built a firewall. I sat back. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from relief. But the will was only the beginning. I opened the second attachment. Then the third. Then all 12. By the time I finished, I wasn't shaking anymore. I was focused. The official will reading happened 3 days later. Dad's estate attorney had a corner office downtown. Mahogany desk. Wall of law books. Diane arrived with her own lawyer. Tailored suit. Leather briefcase. She looked calm. Confident. The attorney read the will aloud. Line by line. When he got to the part about the settlement and the assets going to me, Diane's face went white. Then red, she stood up. This is a fraud. Her voice was shaking. But not with sadness, with rage. He wasn't in his right mind. He was on medication. Someone manipulated him. She pointed at me. He did this. He poisoned my husband against me. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. She shook him off. I'm filing a challenge. Undue influence. Lack of capacity. Whatever it takes. The estate attorney didn't blink. You have that right, ma'am. 48 hours later, Diane's lawyer filed a formal motion to contest the will. They claimed Dad wasn't competent when he signed. They also filed an emergency motion to freeze the estate. No distributions, no access. Nothing moved until the case was resolved. And Diane ramped up the public campaign. Facebook posts about elder abuse. Screenshots of my so-called missed calls during Dad's final days. By the end of the week, half the family had unfriended me. She wanted a war. Fine. I had something better than a war. I had receipts. I went back to Dad's attachments. Attachment 4 was a bank statement. The care account. Diane had been the trustee. I cross-referenced it with her invoice. She'd billed the estate $18,000 a month for premier in-home nursing. I called the actual care agency. They'd charged $4,200 a month. The difference? $13,800. Every month. For 18 months. Transferred to an account labeled D Personal. Dad had highlighted every single one in yellow. I kept digging. The experimental immunotherapy clinic she'd billed for $62,000. I called them. They had no record of my father. Ever. The private hospice suite for $45,000. I pulled Dad's death certificate. Place of death. Home residence. I called the hospice facility on the invoice. We don't offer private suites, sir. We're a non-profit, and we have no billing record for that name. Dad died at home, in the guest bedroom, with a part-time aide who cost $900 a week. Diane had billed for services that didn't exist, and pocketed the difference, over $200,000. Dad had tracked every fraudulent charge. He'd saved everything, and now I knew why she was so desperate. This wasn't about the will. It was about covering up embezzlement. I needed to understand the why. I hired a private investigator, a former colleague, discreet. Fast. 2 days later, she sent me a report. Diane had $340,000 in credit card debt, spread across 8 cards, all opened within the last 3 years. The charges told a story. Luxury trips to Sedona, Monaco, the Maldives. Designer purchases. Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton. A leased BMW. $3,000 a month. Spa memberships. High-end salons. Personal trainers. She'd been living a double life. Funding it with Dad's care money. The timeline matched perfectly. The debt climbed. The care withdrawals increased. Dad got sicker. Diane got more desperate. And when he died, she had a choice. Come clean and face consequences. Or double down. The $287,000 invoice was her escape hatch. If I paid, she'd clear her debt. Keep the settlement. Walk away clean. If I refused, she'd bury me in litigation and hope I'd settle just to make it stop. She wasn't cruel. She was desperate. And desperation makes people dangerous. But I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt clarity, cold, sharp, focused. I knew exactly what to do. I met with Dad's estate attorney and brought in a litigation specialist. We laid everything out on the conference table. The will, the bank records, the vendor statements, Dad's spreadsheet, the PI report. The litigation attorney read through it all, twice. Then she looked up. This is airtight. We drafted a 3-part counter-motion. 1. Dismiss Diane's challenge with prejudice. 2. Enforce the will as written. 3. File a civil claim for restitution of embezzled funds to the estate. We attached every receipt, every statement, every vendor confirmation. We also filed a separate bar complaint against Diane's attorney for filing a frivolous motion without conducting due diligence. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth on record. I wanted Dad's money back, because he'd told me what to do with it in Attachment 13. A handwritten letter. Set up the scholarship fund we always talked about. In your mom's name. Let something good grow from all this. That's what I was fighting for. Not me. Him. The hearing was set for the following Monday. I had 1 weekend to wait. I didn't sleep much, but I was ready. The courtroom was small. Wood paneling. High ceiling. Quiet. The gallery was half full. Diane had invited family members, aunts, cousins, a few of Dad's old friends. She wanted an audience. She sat in the front row, dressed in black. Tissue in hand. I sat across the aisle in a gray suit, holding a binder. Her attorney opened. He talked about devotion, sacrifice, a grieving widow watching her stepson turn his back on her. He called me ungrateful. He said I'd abandoned my father in his final days, and now I wanted to deny the woman who'd cared for him. Then it was our turn. My attorney stood. Calm, professional. She didn't talk about feelings. She projected 3 exhibits on the screen. Exhibit A bank statements. The care account, $247,000 withdrawn over 18 months. Actual vendor payments, $71,000. Difference, $176,000. Unaccounted for. She let that sit. Exhibit B. Vendor affidavits, signed, notarized, the nursing agency, the hospice, the immunotherapy clinic, all confirming their actual charges, none matching Diane's invoice. The hospice administrator's affidavit was blunt. We have no record of this patient. We do not offer private suites. Exhibit C. Dad's signed memo, dated 2 months before his death. Lucid, clear, witnessed by his oncologist. Diane has been provided for per our prenuptial agreement, and the settlement outlined in my will. All remaining assets are to pass to my son. This is my wish, made freely and without coercion. The judge looked at Diane's attorney. Counselor, did you review any financial records before filing this motion? Silence. Your Honor, we relied on our client's representations. That's not what I asked. More silence. The judge took off his glasses. The challenge is dismissed with prejudice. The will stands as written. Ms. Diane is ordered to reimburse the estate $176,000 within 90 days. Attorney fees are awarded to the respondent. He banged the gavel. Diane stood, didn't look at me, walked out. 2 of my cousins stopped me in the hallway. They apologized. Quietly, I nodded. It was over. Diane sold the leased BMW the next week. She set up a payment plan with the estate attorney. 18 months. Automatic withdrawal. I never spoke to her again. I didn't need to. The extended family split cleanly down the middle. Half went silent. Unfriended me. Kept their distance. The other half reached out. Slowly, carefully. A few apologized. I didn't force reconciliation. I set boundaries. If someone wanted to rebuild, I was open. But I wasn't chasing anyone. I kept my job. I like the work. It's clean. It's honest. And Dad taught me that wealth without purpose is just noise. The house became a weekend retreat. I host Mom's side of the family there now. Birthdays, holidays, quiet weekends. It feels like it's supposed to. I donated the first $50,000 from the estate to a nursing scholarship at Mom's alma mater. Full ride, books, stipend, everything. It's in her name. Every year, 3 students get support. I get letters from them sometimes. They tell me what it means. I keep those letters in the same folder as Dad's email. Dad's car collection was 12 vehicles. Classics. Fully restored. I kept one. A 1967 Mustang. His favorite. The one he restored when I was a kid. I drive it on Sundays. The rest I sold. Quiet auctions. Good buyers. I rolled every dollar into the scholarship endowment. It's permanent now. It'll keep running long after I'm gone. I visit Dad's grave on his birthday. Not the anniversary of his death. I don't bring flowers. I bring a printout of the scholarship fund's annual report. 3 students. Full tuition. Mom's name on every plaque. I think he'd smile at that. Diane taught me something I didn't expect. Silence can be more powerful than a speech, and documentation beats drama every single time. If someone hands you a bill for love, you don't owe them a cent. Love doesn't come with an invoice. The people who truly care, they keep receipts to protect you, not to charge you. So here's my question for you. What's the worst financial shakedown you've ever seen at a funeral or after someone passed? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story felt real, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories like this coming every week. Oh, and one last thing. This is a fictionalized dramatization for entertainment and reflection. It is not legal or financial advice. Always consult licensed professionals for your specific situation. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.